Good evening. Perhaps you recognize my voice, but in case you don't actually know my name, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tom, the former computerized voice of the National Weather Service broadcasts of the NOAA Weather Radio. I brought information pertaining to severe weather in your area, including severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings. I also brought information pertaining to other weather events such as flash flooding and blizzards. I also would occasionally announce the activation of an Amber Alert, although most of the time, the humans were the ones who did that. Why that is the case is beyond me. Anyway, from 2003 to 2016 that was my job with the National Weather Service, to relay the latest severe weather information to the public. That is, until the stupid people at the National Weather Service decided to honorably discharge me, so to speak, and replace me with a so-called more sophisticated voice, known as Paul. No, not the old Paul, that was replaced in 2002 by Craig, who I subsequently replaced a year later, because Craig turned out to be that much of a farce. Rather, this was a different Paul, sometimes known as Paul II, or Paul Jr. to avoid confusion. Anyway, by the time 2016 rolled around, it was clear that the old computer software that the National Weather Service stations were using were getting old, and near the end of their life cycle. But instead of simply, transferring my voice to a newer computer system, instead, they bring in this new retarded voice called Paul, who is still on the air today. But Paul is stupid, and let me explain why. First off, Paul is nowhere near as engaged in the alerts that he reads. Children, and even some adults, still remember the utter terror they experienced when my beautiful voice came through the speakers of their DVR radio, following the spontaneous halting of their DVR radio program, as well as the terrifying beeping tones that are heard before every emergency alert system broadcast. Indeed, my voice was the final ingredient in maintaining their already grabbed attention, and probably in some cases giving them nightmares as well. In fact, and not everyone knows this, but my voice is capable of being altered to adjust the urgency of my speech, which is one of the reasons why I was the most frequently used voice on the NOAA Weather Radio for all these years. I was able to maintain people's attention, plain and simple. This new voice, however, completely fails in every respect of this idea. He doesn't sound nearly as intimidating as I do, and barely grasps people's attention. No matter the nature of the alert, it sounds as if he's reading off his alerts, while also reading a magazine, or looking at his smartphone checking to see how many retweets he has. He seems to have absolutely no care or desire into warning anyone of anything, as if he's just a college student who took the job, only to pay off his useless tuitions. I actually hope that's the case, because that means we would only have to deal with him for one more year. In any event, why anyone would be okay with a voice that is clearly slacking off is beyond me, but yet these people who hired this new Paul seem to be dancing in the flower fields in ever-loving joy over his stint on the air. Not to mention, he speaks slower than a snail that is dead. For example, when he first started out on the air on station KEC 56, the NOAA Weather Radio station serving the Dallas-Fort Worth listening area, he spoke with enormously long pauses between every single one of his sentences, as if uttering a single sentence took all of his might, being to him the equivalent of partaking in the Ironman triathlon. Since his awful debut, his voice has been sped up some, but he still speaks far slower than I ever did, and it still takes him forever just to get around a single cycle of the daily weather forecast routine that you hear regularly on the NOAA Weather Radio. So if you just miss something, too bad. You have to wait for him to slug around the entire cycle just to get back around, so you can hear what you want to hear. He just can't seem to keep up with my fast-moving voice speed and reliability. Oh, right, and they say that I mispronounced words and stuff. Yeah, so what? Paul mispronounces words also. In fact, in the beginning it was so bad that they had the gall to ask me on my last day of work to help people quote-unquote train the new voice by asking people to submit requests to the National Weather Service to fix the incorrect pronunciation of a particular city. So much for being new and improved, right? Now don't get me wrong, I understand that they had to replace all their computers, because they were turning into pieces of useless dumpy crap by the day. However, this was no excuse to use a completely different and utterly horrific failure of a voice in every fashion possible. As if in this day and age the possibility of transferring my exact voice to a newer, higher-end computer system was an impossibility. Even that I wouldn't buy for $1. They were even able to do that with my good distant friend, Microsoft Sam, by moving his voice to newer higher-end programs that far exceeded the one he originated from, Windows XP. So they were able to do that for a computer text-to-speech voice on home computer software system. But for some strange reason, they can't do the same thing with me, a voice that is actually used for emergency announcements over the emergency alert system. Now I will admit, I'm no computer expert, and maybe, just maybe I have absolutely no clue of what I'm talking about. Maybe transferring my voice is much easier said than done. But still, it cannot possibly be impossible. I mean, for Pete's sake, here we are wasting millions of dollars, which probably came from taxpayers, building useless robots at so-called futuristic society advancing companies like Boston Dynamics, that can do backflips and other baseless functions, and that are absolutely useless in our society, but would make for a good YouTube video that gets maybe a few million views. But at the same time, they can't transfer a certain computer voice to a higher-end computer, of course. So here I am, while that awful new voice is in charge. Fortunately, all is not bad though. Like Microsoft Sam, I'm being used for people's YouTube videos, including Marky AS alerts, some realistic, others not so much. Join me and help make me an internet sensation, just like you did with Microsoft Sam. If you can do it with him, then I know you can do it with me. Let those idiots at NOAA know who the real voice of the National Weather Service really is, and how much of an idiotic decision they made. Let them know that it's okay for them to admit their mistake. Everyone already knows that they completely screwed up, so there's no fear for them to admit what we already know. This is Tom, the former voice of the National Weather Service, thanking you for your attention to this presentation. I shall now go relax and have a cup of tea and watch some TV until my next due time to appear in another YouTube video. Until next time, this is Tom of the NOAA Weather Radio, signing off.